Hello, this is Alison and I'm going to read one of my arty farty stories for my friend Rachel Rafiefar. Thank you, Rachel, for nominating The Lark by Vincent Van Gogh, one of my favourite artists. And the story that I have written for The Lark is Opus of Alaudidae. Alaudidae is the family name for the lark. So, here we go. Settle down, get yourself a nice cup of tea. It was a day of a mackerel clouded sky of blue, with a sweet warm breeze that kissed in from the east, carrying a faint tang of oceanic salt. I was walking. I was given to walking, sometimes without a map even, just following my nose to wherever it led me, and enjoying the journey. Often the destinations were a disappointment. There was a deep pocket in my jacket, which was just the right size for a particular flask of strong hot coffee to be tucked away, and another pocket which accommodated a thick sandwich and a small apple. I always made sure those pockets were filled before I set off. Years ago, my dad had showed me how to use a pair of field glasses. They were battle weary and seen a fair bit of action in their time, but now they were mine and I was happy to have them as company on my walks. On this day, I found myself skirting a field of corn, high enough to warrant harvesting, but still green, waiting for the sun to turn it golden and ripe. At first, I didn't even see the man at his easel, working with a solid and quiet determination. He almost blended with the scenery. The warmth of the day lifted an oily fragrance of his paints and created a delightful miasma around him. His hands were steady but very active, drawn back and forth between a wooden pallet and a canvas which perched on an easel. He hadn't yet seen me. I felt embarrassed to reveal myself too soon. I wanted to watch him working, although I had no permission to do so. I engaged my trusty field glasses for a better view. From time to time, the artist got up and walked away from his own work. He would circle his easel, almost agitated, peering this way and that, and hands on hips, then running thick paint-daubed fingers through tousled red hair, pausing stock still for minutes at a time before returning to his stool to pick up where he left off. The day had already shifted. Even as I watched, the sun was reaching beyond its zenith. I could smell rain coming. My jacket was suddenly feeling to be a burden, so I took it off and laid it on the ground, remembering the flask and the wrapped sandwiches, smoothing out the fabric of the lining and preparing to sit upon it, all the better to observe the artist's progress. I was seen. The artist had caught me in a moment of indiscretion, pouring a cup of coffee. Embarrassed somewhat, I hailed him and bid him join me. He turned his back, silently rejecting my hospitality, and returned to his work. I felt dismissed, although I had no right to. Picking up my meagre fare, I approached and offered what I had. The artist seemed surprised, whether that was due to my presence at all or the fact I was offering him refreshments. I don't know, but he accepted. Having split the sandwich and halved the apple with my trusty army knife, I watched him eat. Careful bites, thoughtful and appreciative. He was less grateful for the coffee, which he spat onto the ground, screwing up his face, and declared, "Bitter." The painting was almost finished. He captured the day as it was in swift, unembarrassed daubs, thick and heavy. It seemed to cry out for lightness, as a heavy dinner cries out for sweetness as dessert. As we stood together, we heard it. Bright, rising opus, stretching the space around us, rising, rising, cutting through the warmth and threat of thunder with a crystalline vibrato. The lark had stirred to deliver a moment of pure grace. Leaping to his feet, the artist took up his brushes, applied his final mark in one deft movement. In that single stroke, the paint rendered an auditory miracle, dressed in brown plumage, manifest for eternity. So, Rachel, I hope you enjoy your story. Please share it if you feel inspired to. And I'll see you again for another story another time. Bye bye.